Hey, does your audio sound like you're streaming from a bathroom or from somebody's shed? Or does it have a lot of background noise, fan noise, somebody yelling in the background or dogs barking, somebody on Discord so loud you can't even hear the stream, music so loud you can't hear yourself think? You're in the right place. We're talking about how to fix audio today. All right, so why do you have to have such good audio on your stream, Ninja 614? The answer is pretty simple. It's unrealistic to think that somebody's going to sit there and watch your stream for 4, 6, 8+ hours with rapt attention, fully focused on what you're doing the entire time. It's far more likely for them to come in and maybe say hi, but oftentimes just fire up your stream and just listen to your stream in the background while they play another video game or fold their laundry or do some work, and treat your stream almost like a podcast or a radio show. And the better your audio is, the higher chance that people will want to do that, because they'll enjoy listening to your show as much as they enjoy watching it. If your audio sucks, it's not as an enjoyable of an experience, and they're more likely to maybe switch off to another streamer who does have good audio and listen to them in the background. So if you're going to spend any money on your stream, invest in your audio first. Before we get into talking about how to fix your audio, let's talk about the different types of microphones and how they were designed and how they should be used. The most common that you're probably most familiar with is the condenser microphone, and that's things like the Blue Yeti, the AT2020, the AT35, both from Ars Technica. These are the most common that you'll see in a lot of streamers' setups. However, these types of mics were designed for a studio environment where there's not a lot of ambient noise. There has been acoustic treatment to avoid echo and other sound problems, and they were designed for near field use. And unfortunately, they might be not the best choice for a lot of streamers. The dynamic microphone is actually designed for noisy environments and is more suited for a scenario where you don't have acoustic treatment. You're not in a studio. There's multiple There's multiple sources of noise in the room, and you want to be able to minimize the ambient noise from your fans and your air conditioner and maybe somebody who's on the show with you, who's sitting next to you and on another dynamic microphone, and we don't want to pick up each other's voices. Dynamic mics are perfectly suited for that, and they're far more suited for the majority of streamer setups because of the fact we don't live in acoustically treated studios, most of us. And then of course there's the third option, which is the shotgun mic that I'm going to throw in there because it is a solution for those of you who do not want to have a microphone in your shot, because the studio mics like the condenser and the dynamic mic, those mics are near field. They need to be near your face. The shotgun mic can be a medium to long distance from you, and it can be suitable for a scenario where you don't want to have the microphone in your face. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail here in a little bit. Some shotgun examples are the Sennheiser MKE600, the Rode NTG5, and if you're wealthy, the Sennheiser MK416, which comes in at about $1,000. Anyway, those are the types of microphones. Let's get into common issues for bad audio and ways that we can address them moving forward. By the way, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for hanging out. If you wouldn't mind giving me the old thumbs up in the comment down below, I would really appreciate it. It'll help the algorithm and all the things and stuff. Anyway, the common issues that I see over and over and over again in live streams are the microphone sounds really echoey and hollow, like you're streaming from the bathroom or a shed or something, and that's usually because of mic placement or improper mic use. There is too much background noise. There are no filters or any sort of acoustic treatment, so you hear all the fans and air conditioners and road noise and everything else around while the streamer's talking, and even when they aren't. There is a large amount of hissing and line noise in the audio as well, because the microphone was set too hot and it's over modulated, and so we've introduced some extra line noise and bad balance where the music is super loud and you can't hear the streamer, or somebody in Discord is so loud they're stamping all over everybody talking, or the streamer is too low. All of the ways that the audio is out of balance and it's very difficult to hear what's going on. All of these things we're going to talk about ways to solve. Let's talk about microphone placement. A lot of you guys are using your microphone incorrectly. Mic placement is very important. Condenser mics and dynamic mics, in most cases, especially all the ones I talked about earlier in this video and the most common ones that you will find on Twitch and YouTube, are designed for near field recording. And that means that they are engineered and created to be near the audio source to get the best audio quality. If you set up your microphone too far away from the audio source, i.e. your face, like this, Now the microphone is not only, you have to run it much higher in order to pick up your audio so you don't have to yell the whole time. It's also picking up all of the acoustic echoes in the room. And since you had to boost the gain up so much so that you could actually get the signal from being too far away from your face, it's also now picking up all kinds of extra fan noise and ambient noise that's around your house, especially since in most cases we don't live in a studio, we live in an actual house, and these types of mics, like the condenser mics, are all designed for studio work where there is acoustic treatment, where there is very little ambient noise, and they are expected that you're going to be in there by yourself quietly singing or talking into the microphone without any of the other stuff. So those mics are perfect if you're doing ASMR or intimate recordings where you need to pick up delicate sounds because they're so sensitive. But unfortunately, they are really kind of hard to work with when you're talking about a live streaming scenario in a person's house, your typical streamer setup, where there's a lot of ambient noise and it's not a studio and there might be other people around and there's all kinds of fan noise and air conditioner noise and street noise and everything else. The best thing you can do is move the mic about a fist's length away from your face for the best audio pickup. And then you're able to adjust your audio down so that your initial microphone level when it's coming in is not pushing so high that it's causing line noise and some of the other things that we are talking about as common audio issues. You'll find that some of these things, when we fix them, fixes other problems too, but this one's the easiest. Just move the mic on screen. However, some of you are just categorically opposed to having a microphone on camera. I don't get that. I don't understand where that comes from, but okay, fine. There's two ways we can deal with that. Number one, shout out to my friend Vindalia. She's a partnered streamer on Twitch who streams Elder Scrolls Online. She's a friend of mine. She's wonderful. You should go check her out. She solved the problem by putting the microphone near her face so that it was actually close enough to pick up the audio really well, but then she chroma keyed it, basically covered it in green so that it disappeared from the camera. So this way she's getting the great audio of having the microphone properly positioned near her, but you can't see it because it's been chroma keyed out of the scene. And then the other option is to get a shotgun camera. A shotgun microphone. We talked about that earlier in the video. Shotgun mics are directional and they're meant to be medium to long range from their target. In other words, you can have it up over above you off camera and pointed down at your chest and it'll pick up only your voice. So good shotgun mics are highly specialized, almost like a laser that zeroes in on whatever it's pointed at. And that's another way that you can solve the whole audio thing by getting yourself a decent shotgun mic and setting it up off camera. So in summary, and getting back to one of the points I made earlier in this video, how audio is king. It's one of the most important things you can do for your audio, for your stream quality. Either get over the whole putting your microphone on camera thing or do something else like some of the other tips I gave you, because otherwise your audio sucks and you're misusing your microphone and it could just sound so much better if you just put it in the right place. Okay, we've figured out where our mic should be placed based on the type of microphone we have and the environment that we're in, and we've got that all set up and good to go. So let's go into talking about our overall balance, okay? When we're talking about audio balance, you've got a couple things going on. In most cases in your OBS, you're gonna see over here, we have the microphone audio, and then we have the desktop audio, or your stream mix, if you will. If you're looking at the audio mixer, and this is the same in both Streamlabs OBS and OBS Studio, like I'm using here, what we're trying to shoot for as a general rule, as you can see, I'm talking right now, we want our audio in the microphone to be, for our voice as the streamer, to be hitting the upper registers of this yellow area here. If it once in a while touches the red but doesn't ever really stay there, that's okay. Generally speaking, while you're talking, we want, even when you're getting loud, and we'll get to how we deal with getting loud later, we still want the audio to be sitting somewhere in this upper yellow register. That way you are the dominant sound on the stream, and your microphone audio should be hitting this somewhere in the neighborhood of -15 to -10 decibels right here in the yellow section. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is we want to make sure that our stream's game audio and music audio and other things doesn't compete with us over here in this yellow band. If you have somebody in Discord with you, you want them to be in the very lower section of the yellow, so that we want them to be slightly less loud than we are, so that while we're talking to our audience and talking to our stream, if somebody pipes up on the Discord and you don't have them muted, they're not louder than you are. Let's say from -22 to say -17 decibels, which is kind of where I'm putting my mouse here. That crossover between the green and the yellow is a good place for your Discord friends and family. Then the next thing we want to do is make sure that our game audio is hitting somewhere anywhere from maybe -35 up to around -25. This whole band right here, this 10 decibel swing is where we can play with your volume for your music and your game audio. As long as your music and game audio are kind of hitting in this range, it won't overshadow your speaking and won't, you know, outclass the volume of your microphone when you're trying to communicate with your stream. We're also going to take it a step further, and we're going to be using some audio ducking, which I'll cover later in the video. So to recap real quick, your voice should be hitting in the somewhere of the, you know, -12, -10 upper yellow register here of the balance of the mixer. Then over here on the audio, remember, we want our Discord people to be living somewhere in this -22 to -17 in the crossover section of the green and yellow. And then we want our game audio to be somewhere down here in the -35 to -25. Your game and your music on your stream can be down in here. Anything below -35 is getting really quiet. So if it's bouncing down, that's going to be really, really low volume, and the disparity between that volume and your volume, they're going to have to crank your stream up really loud in order to be able to hear this. And then you're going to be super loud. So what we're trying to do is achieve a level of balance here where we don't have too big of a disparity between your microphone sound and the game sound or the stream mix sound down here. So that's audio balance. All right, we have properly placed our mic and we have now balanced our audio. So let's get into some audio filters that really can make the difference in terms of the quality of our audio. One of the first things I like to do is add in an actual noise filter. So what we do is we come over here to the microphone and click on the little gear sign. It's the same here as in Streamlabs OBS, and we're going to go to filters. We're going to add a VST2.x plugin, and we're going to choose the ReaFIR _ standalone. If you don't have the VST plugins yet, there's going to be a link down in the description below. It's part of it's a free download and install of the ReaFIR plugins, and it gives you all kinds of nice little audio filters for free that you can plug into OBS. They're very powerful and they work really well. But my favorite one to use out of those ReaFIR VST plugins is the ReaFIR. So let's bring that bad boy open and show you what it looks like. It has multiple things that it can do, but the one we're really going to focus on with the ReaFIR plugin here is the subtract mode. And essentially how it works, what we're going to do is we're going to set the edit mode to precise. We can leave the FFT size to default. We're not going to touch the output gain. We're going to change the mode and make sure it's on subtract. And then we're going to be very quiet. We're going to make sure that there's no other sounds going on except for just the mic listening to the room in otherwise total silence. We let it do it for a few seconds, and then we uncheck that button. And what it did was it listened to the ambient noises in the room and then created a profile that allows it to then subtract those frequencies from your audio on the fly while you're live, which is pretty amazing. Just real quick so I can show you the difference, I'm going to disable the ReaFIR plugin altogether and remove my noise gate so you can hear how much ambient noise is in the studio that's being picked up by this microphone that we've eliminated by first adding in this ReaFIR noise reduction, and then later we're going to be adding in a noise gate as well. So let me disable all of that so you can see what it sounds like when I have that stuff turned off. Quite a bit of noise. Now, if I turn this back on, you can't hear that background humming, buzzing fan noise anymore. Pretty amazing, right? So if your streaming environment has a lot of fan noise, has an air conditioner, has a bunch of computer noise, it is something that you're going to want to do before every stream. Maybe work that in if you have a pre-flight checklist, or if you keep notes on the things that you want to go through and make sure you're working. Once you get everything up and you're about ready to go live, you just take a few seconds where you stop talking, you make sure there's no other ambient noise happening, and then you just let the ReaFIR plugin listen to the environment and build a new noise profile to remove those frequencies from the background when you're live streaming, and it'll make your audio sound so much cleaner and so much better moving forward. So that's the ReaFIR plugin for noise filtering. Okay, we've done our ReaFIR plugin to remove ambient noise in the background. Let's move on to the compressor, and the way to do that is the same. We're gonna, we go to the microphone and click on the little gear here and choose filters to bring up this menu. and we're going to choose the compressor from down here and add it. And I've already gotten this set up for kind of how I like to set it, but essentially, for a real quick primer on what a compressor does, compression compresses the sound wave so that it becomes less loud and less quiet. In other words, it brings the highest volume down and it brings the lowest volume up and brings it closer into a narrower band. And why this is important is many of us, when we're live streaming, will have quite dynamic ranges. We might go through periods where we're just kind of talking like normal, but then we might have a major hype moment when somebody comes in with a bunch of subs, or you get a huge raid, or something exciting happens in the game and your voice gets loud. And what we don't want to have happen is to peak the microphone or to blast everybody's ears off. So you could definitely hear that I was getting louder there, but the compressor is squishing those things down. So let's walk through these settings of a compressor for what we're trying to do here. The compression is the ratio of how much it's compressing everything. So we are compressing the audio in a ratio of 5:1, which is considered a medium compression. 8 and above is considered high compression, and somewhere around 2 to 3 is considered low compression. 1:1 ratio is basically no compression. 5:1 is that's a good place to start. I think most people can live pretty good within that 5:1 ratio. But if you find that you're still wildly swinging much louder than when you're talking normal, then you can bring this ratio up even more and play around with it until you find something that works well. Ideally, what we're trying to do is make it so that no matter what our volume, staying somewhere in that -10 to -12 that you can see over there in the audio mixer for OBS. That yellow is bouncing around right in that spot. Once you go through and set up all of your settings, you can then go through and do some tests and then tweak it as necessary. If you need to bring it down even more, you can compress it even higher. I would start at 5 and then go from there. I wouldn't go beyond, say, 12. Otherwise, your audio is going to start to sound really flat without a lot of inflection. So we got a ratio set to 5:1. Our threshold is where we want the compressor to kick in. I've set it at -24. So as the volume of my voice hits that -24 threshold right over here on the mixer, that's when the compressor kicks in and starts to compress the sound of my voice. Okay. For our attack, that's how quickly we want the compressor to kick in whenever it hits that threshold. And I always set it at the shortest attack possible because I want the compression to kick in immediately, because if I get super duper loud, I want it to be attacking and compressing, immediately. If I went from quiet to suddenly really loud, I really want that attack to be immediate. Then the release, I set it to somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 500 milliseconds. That's how long it holds the compression before it releases it after the compression kicks in. This allows it to sort of fall off gracefully and not just abruptly change, and all of a sudden you'd have a weird volume change at the tail end of a sound. So in the process of compressing the audio into a narrower band, we actually have reduced the overall volume of our audio. So we're going to add some output gain back in. So once you've done your ratio and you got your threshold and your attack and your release in place, we're going to adjust our output gain by adding more gain to make up for the fact that we have lowered the overall volume of our stream. And in this case, I ended up upping it to about 7 decibels because that seemed to be enough to make it so I was still hitting that upper yellow section of the mixer, that -10, -12 area of the mixer. And that's compression. And moving on down from compression, we're going to go into our noise gate. And our noise gate is exactly what it sounds like. It is basically a gatekeeper that says, I'm not going to open the microphone until the volume hits a certain threshold. So in this case, I actually have my noise gate set to the same threshold as my compressor. So the microphone and your setup, your audio is being listened to by OBS, but it's not going to open or start transmitting your voice, or basically send the signal from the microphone to the stream until you hit that open threshold, in which case is -24. What that means is I can be typing on my keyboard, I can be rapping on the table a little bit, be rustling around with some papers and whatever. As long as it doesn't hit that -24 threshold, the mic won't kick in and nobody on the stream will hear it. And your close threshold is when the microphone closes back up, and I have it set to -29. So it opens at -24, but in order to keep it from cutting off too quickly when you stop talking and all of a sudden you have an abrupt end to your sentence, I've reduced it to -29, so that gives enough time for the volume for me to trail off of my sentence, and you have a nice natural slope. The good rule of thumb is somewhere around 5 decibels less than your open threshold. In this case, because of how we're using negative numbers, -29 is actually less volume than -24. We're opening the threshold at 24 and we're closing it at -29. I start talking and the volume hits -24 here. Noise gate opens up. You can hear my voice. When I stop talking, when it falls back down to -29 right here, the mic then closes up again to then avoid you hearing typing and other little noises and stuff when I'm not actually speaking. Same thing with the attack. We want it to kick in right away. We don't want to delay there. Hold time similar, 300 to 500, something like that. And then the release time can be relatively short. You could go with a shorter hold time and then a longer release, or you could go like I have here where I've got a little bit longer hold time, which effectively means we've got a 450 release total, 450 milliseconds, which was in that 300 to 500. And the reason why I want to do that, we want to make sure it's, you know, generous enough to give that 5 decibel pad here, and we make sure we've got I've got it set to 450 milliseconds because that keeps us from getting cut off too quickly when the noise gate kicks back in. We don't want to have our sentences sounding like they're being chopped off and kind of cut it out when we talk, something like that. So we've gone through on our microphone channel in the audio mixer over here, and we've added the ReaFIR noise canceling filter. We've added the compressor to accommodate for dynamic changes of the volume of our voice while we're live streaming. And we've added in a noise gate to turn off the microphone so you can't hear my keyboard clicking or various little sounds when I'm not actually speaking. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add one more trick, and this is called audio ducking. We're going to now bring up the filter on our desktop audio or our stream mix audio, and we're going to add a compression filter again. This time we're going to choose compressor, but when I added it, I changed the name to audio ducking. And in this case, what we're trying to do is whenever the microphone is picking up sound and I'm talking and we're transmitting my voice, we're going to lower the stream volume of the mix on the desktop. So all of the sounds that are here are going to be reduced by a pretty significant amount so that this is never competing with my voice. So no matter if it gets really hectic and really chaotic and a cacophony of noise between the music and the video game and the Discord, and it's just this jumbled mess of sounds, if I start talking, we're going to reduce the volume of our stream mix or desktop audio by a significant amount so that my voice always stands out. And the way we do that is I just went ahead and cranked that compression ratio way up because we want to drop the volume pretty drastically to be sure that even if we're at a pretty upper register here with the Discord, I am still heard over those voices. I brought the threshold again to around -24. You sort of notice a pattern here with me. Around -24 is where I like things to kick in. Again, we want the attack to be super fast, so when I start talking, we immediately compress the other channel down. My release is now in that same 300 to 500, so you have a little bit of a fall off and it doesn't abruptly end. And we're going to ignore output gain this time because we don't want to change the volume of this. We actually want the reduction in volume. And then from here, I choose the microphone, whatever microphone channel I'm using, and set that as my sidechain ducking source. Basically, we're saying whenever this source reaches -24 decibel, I want you to compress it down with a 32 to 1 ratio so that they can hear me. And that's audio ducking. If you don't have a Go XLR or you don't have another system that already has compression and those things already built into it, then using these filters from OBS, these are really good. All 3 of these, plus the audio ducking trick, are really robust tools that come free with OBS Studio and Streamlabs OBS, so I highly recommend using them. So let's go ahead and turn on the volume of the game so you can actually hear the music. And when I start talking, you'll hear the volume of the music start to go down, and you can even see it in the mixer there. It's bouncing now around -30 to -35. And when I stop talking, the volume of the music rises back up, so it's easier to hear. And this way, whenever I'm saying something on stream, people can hear it over whatever cacophony of noise is happening in my background. And that is a wrap on the tutorials that I have for you. I hope that you found them useful. If you try any of these tips or tricks in this guide, please leave a comment down below. Let me know how it went. Feel free to put your channel down there so I can go check that out as well. And if you found something particularly helpful or something particularly confusing, I would like to know that too, because that helps me continue to improve my videos and make them more helpful and useful to you guys. All right, guys, if you've made it to this part of the video, this has been a long one. First of all, you're the MVP. And second of all, put your favorite ice cream down in the comments to let me know you've actually made it to this part of the video where we rack things up. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Those of you who have been liking and commenting and subscribing and sharing and all that stuff, I really, really do appreciate it. Don't forget to catch me over on my Twitch channel Thursday night through Sunday night, and sometimes on Monday starting between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern. That's twitch.tv/ninja614. I would love to have you there. Usually playing Elder Scrolls Online, but we talk about a whole lot of things in between doing the actual playing of the game. But happy to have you there. And that's going to do it. I'll see you next week with another video. In the meantime, I'm going to be experimenting with shorts and things like that, so keep a lookout for those things. Feel free to like them, dislike them, put a bad comment, put a good comment, whatever. It's cool. Thank you so much. I am out of here. Bye. 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 Bye.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right?